Welcome back, everybody, to the Beggars Canyon Boys. This is episode 14. We're back. It's me, Jackson, with my friend Ryan, going through the whole history of the Star Wars universe. And today we are in the realms of 1992, 1993, the early 90s, a bit of a renaissance in Star Wars, post Heir to the Empire. We're still living in that glow, a new boom of Star Wars media coming out and setting the stage for the prequel movies. Today we are talking about the first miniseries in a collection of miniseries called Tales of the Jedi, 6 issues written by Tom Veitch. How are you feeling today, Ryan?
Very excited. It's our pre-quinceanera episode, by the way.
Okay.
Just call that out. Second of all, I like what you said.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Hey, man, look, you can cut out whatever you want to cut out of the podcast, but I'm going to say what's on my mind, and that was on my mind.
Well, that's not getting.
Can we talk about Star Wars?
Please.
Second of all, when it comes to the comics, I like what you said about this being sort of an era of Star Wars renaissance because, when I'm thinking about comics, I think of the 90s as a scary, dark, unfun time, really.
Sure.
But we read a Star Wars comic today that I think is like an awesome 90s comic and exemplifies what I think 90s comics do like right instead of wrong.
Yes, I very much agree with you. And yeah, I guess... I'd feel a little generalizing about, what a 90s comic means, I guess. Which
Sure.
I know that you're not saying, that all 90s comics are bad or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm saying the general flavor of the era.
Yes.
What we, colloquially refer to as, 90s. More thinking in line of, Marvel, in my opinion.
Yeah, like Rob Liefeld type stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Which, you're absolutely right, and that did, infect comic books pretty hardcore. But, yeah, I would agree with you that, these comics still feel very much you can tell these are from the 90s. They feel of that era somehow, but not in that, bad way of, everybody has a giant gun and, there's no characterization. There's just designs and stuff like that. It's not really falling into those traps.
Yeah, I also think maybe part of it is when it comes to the 90s, I may just be not clued into the actual history of it and whatnot, but I'm sure there was a lot of progression going on with art technology and what they were able to print and put out on the paper. But the style as it evolved in the 90s, that again, generalizing, but a lot of companies and whatnot started to emulate, is just kind of ugly to me. And this one definitely felt more 80s style comic art, very old school look to it, despite being 93.
Yeah. I fully agree with you, and I think my personal favorite bit of the art, because there's 3 different pencilers over the course of 5 issues. The first 2 are done by Chris Gossett. The third one's done by Janie Johnston. And then the 4th and 5th issues are done by David Roach. I think David Roach is the best out of these 3. Those last 2 issues look so good. The creature design, the character design, I think the first 2 issues fall a little bit into I don't know, looking like that kind of yucky style of 90s art to me, even though I don't think it's that bad.
Sure.
It's just a little bit crowded, a little hard to tell what's happening on the panels, a little over-designed, I guess. They've got those lightsabers that just have a little too many bumps and switches on them and things.
Yeah.
But that's just personal preference, really. But I just really like the art of the last 2 issues. David Roach.
For sure. Yeah. But honestly, overall, I thought they did a pretty good job of with different artists making everything still look really cohesive.
Yes.
And I was yeah, this is the Star Wars universe. Again, really capturing that very well, I thought.
And it might be something in the color palette or something too, but it feels like the ancient Star Wars universe to
Yeah,
me. Which, okay, I guess we should say this series
true.
by Tom Veitch is an attempt to tell the story of the Jedi 4,000 years before the time of Luke Skywalker and the Death Star and all that.
Which, a great concept. Why didn't Marvel try this take when they got the rights for the comic? Come on.
They just had like no ambition with that
Yeah.
comic, and you know this, as far as I can think of, other than the fucking Ewok movies, is the first thing that doesn't have our main characters in it at all.
Yeah, you're right.
And all of them, you know, Heir to the Empire is the furthest beyond Return of the Jedi that we've gone in timeline. But this is the first time we've explored stuff before the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And way before the first movie.
I have to say also, I mean, I know we've both said it as we've watched and consumed a lot of Star Wars content on this podcast, but like the idea of wanting to like play around in the Star Wars universe and like have a lightsaber battle and all that, the way they sort of set up what the Jedi Order was like, I was like, oh my gosh, if I could live in any Star Wars time, it would be this period. Like, I want to live in this world where there is this like hierarchy of Jedi knowledge. Like, look at all these ancient, like, I guess they're not ancient at the time, but like these wise masters that are available to these Jedis.
Yeah. It's like how surprising that the dark side could still have power in a time with so many wise Jedis guarding the galaxy. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Like, at least so far, this is the most like, oh, I would like love to role play in this time because there's just so much. And I love the world of the original trilogy, but it's like I guess pretty much what you said. If I were to actually be alive in the universe, that would probably be a much nicer time to be alive than the time of the Empire. So.
Sure, I guess I don't know what happens to mess things up, but yeah, we'll see. It is funny you say the role playing thing, though. I also do think if like we ever did some Star Wars tabletop role playing experience, like this is where I would want to set it.
They did release source books for this stuff. Too.
Oh, truly?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think this is a lot of fun because it's disconnected enough where there's like freedom to do sort of your own storytelling in a more exploratory way, I guess.
Would you even say there's Freedon?
Oh, a little fallen Jedi.
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. Please continue. I didn't mean to.
Very good fun. Are you proud of me for remembering that guy's name?
Yeah. I was like, I wonder if this one's going to work.
Yeah, I processed for a second. I was like, whoa. I just remember because there's such an awesome image of this fallen Jedi.
Freedon Naad.
Yeah, later on, adorned. Well, I mean, it's not a spoiler. He's dead when the story starts, but it's his skeleton adorned in his armor. Just super awesome.
When they go to his tomb, it's so cool. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail your thought, but I do agree like that this is really nice because you don't really have to adhere to any kind of continuity. I mean, now that this exists, future writers kind of do have to adhere to this, but as far as Tom Veitch is concerned, he's like creating all of this. And I love the opening crawl on the first page of this that says like, due to the invention of hyperspace travel, the galaxy is now connected and the Republic looks to bring in like faster than light travel societies into the Galactic Republic. I'm like, oh, hell yes.
I know.
Like, that's the lore I'm looking for from Star Wars.
Yeah, and I mean, I like where we are when like the Star Wars movie starts too. I think that in of itself is an interesting period, and I'm sure the prequels will be interesting too. But it's very fun because, as they describe it in this opening, it feels like the start of a connected community of like worlds and universes and everything. So it's like it feels like a very energized and exciting time anyway. So I think that's also part of the reason I'm like, I would love to be like a Jedi at this time, like learning under my master, going on these outreach missions to planets.
You and your boys, like
Yeah.
you and your two buddies who are also Jedis, but all have, little different quirks about them. Like it's great. Like
Yeah.
they're not the deepest characters in this, but like they are great self-insert characters. Like at least I have this experience watching and reading stuff when I'm a kid. Like if somebody just like does one cool thing and they look cool, they could be like pretty shallow in terms of characterization, but I'm just like, I'm that guy. I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I'm like him. And that's the sensation I got with Tot Donita in this comic.
Yeah.
I guess we'll briefly go over what's happening in this story. So it's kind of interesting. It's a 5-issue miniseries, but the first 2 issues are one story, and the next 3 are another. And they do kind of cross over a little bit, and they will continue in the next miniseries.
Which was a surprise to me, by the way, because I go into these blind, so I don't know anything about them. So I thought it was just going to be... I almost thought each issue was going to be just a little tale of a Jedi during this period.
Like all 5 would be a different anthology thing?
Yeah, and I didn't think there'd be any, like, real connection at all. So when, like, the guys were getting mentioned in Nomi's story, I was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah. I agree. And Tot Donita shows up and rides on the back of Master Thon for a second there.
Yeah, hey, well...
I'm getting ahead of myself. But the first 2 issues, the main character is this guy, Ulic Qel-Droma. And also, a lot of these characters, Tom Veitch was actually setting up in the back of Dark Empire. This is not in the Marvel Unlimited versions of them, but when they first came out, on like the last page, he would have like these data sheets of like, 4,000 years ago, blah, blah, blah. Ulic Qel-Droma and his master Arca like did this stuff, and then that got expanded upon into what became this comic, and this was what he wanted to write, at least according to what I'm reading. This was what he had an idea for and wanted to write before he even wrote Dark Empire. It was just that when Dark Horse got the license, that was like the mandate was first to do like a story that takes place after Return of the Jedi with the main characters and stuff to make sure that it would like sell well. And it did sell really well. So then they're like, okay, now you can do your little passion project here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because when you told me it was the same guy who did both the comics, it was like not weird, I guess, but just interesting in my head that you would go from doing, a Star Wars comic that is utilizing the main characters, and then going and doing this, which is completely like disconnected from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes sense that that's the story that he initially wanted to tell, and they just had to dangle the characters we know in front of our face for a second. Not that was bad or anything, but
I mean, I get it. Like the Dark Empire and Heir to the Empire coming out at the same time. They really, according to like everything I'm reading about this time period, like people didn't want to make Star Wars stuff, and they were scared that they would lose money on Star Wars projects, and they thought that interest was dead for it. And so they were taking a gamble making these things. So I totally understand, like, for the launch of your line of Star Wars comics to sell books, you probably want, like, Luke Skywalker's face on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, I also not trying to, like, talk to you as if you don't understand that. I
don't think you are.
Okay. I know that you know how that kind of thing works. I'm just saying, like, yeah, it makes sense. But apparently, he had this idea for this and he wanted to make it. And they were like, no, there's no like interest in Star Wars right now. That's not going to happen. But then once he proved that there was, and those first books sold really well, then they let him do this. I already said that. Okay, so the story of this. Ulic Qel-Droma, his brother Kay, and their friend Tot Donita, the Twi'lek. They're all the apprentices of this guy, Master Arca. Master Arca tells them, hey, there's this planet called Onderon that has like a civil war going on there for, many generations. Why don't you go and broker peace? Um, yeah, why don't we just talk about those two first? I thought that the concept for the backstory of Onderon was really, really cool
Yeah, me too.
because it's two. It's Onderon and then a moon that
Wait, is Onderon not itself a moon? Was it not two moons?
you could be absolutely correct about that. This is something that people get on my ass about in the comments on my TikTok of like, this is actually a moon, not a planet.
That's really funny.
Yeah. They function exactly the same in
Yeah.
Star Wars for the most part, unless there's some plot reason why it's important that it's a moon,
Yeah.
which there isn't.
The big space rock that people live on.
Yes.
Which there's two together.
Two of them get so close that their atmospheres touch, and these beasts, these flying beasts from one, get onto Onderon. And then
The peaceful people of Onderon? Oh no.
that's what we're led to believe. And then this is so cool. They develop a system where they send like undesirables and criminals out of the city into the wilds where those beasts are,
Yeah.
as like their version of prison, like, oh, just go die out in the woods. And then that goes on for so long that people learn to tame the beasts and become beast riders. And so then you've got two factions of like these people who've created a society out in the woods and have tamed the beasts, and then like the royal wealthy people up in their fancy city, and they're always at war with each other. Like, that's pretty cool. I don't have really much to say about it other than I think it's cool, but like really fun idea, I think.
I agree. I also think it's a super fun idea, and I love the way that they showcased it too. And it does make me want to add on to what you said earlier about like there not being a lot of characterization in this comic. Totally true. Also, though, not exactly what it's trying to do in these issues, at least, because really it is just giving us a lot of like Star Wars lore, history, and detail about how things work in the universe.
There's lots of flashbacks and storytelling and stuff.
Yeah, but I love getting to see, like, as you said, like the two moon/planets. Now I'm scared this one coming together. Because it like goes through and it gives you this little linear timeline of like how the society evolved, and it's like, yeah, they had to create weapons, and they were like pretty primitive weapons at first, but then they like eventually they've got like these laser cannons, and then like it showed the city being built and everything, and it showed like the discipline system coming into play, and just like getting to see all that panel by panel, step by step was like really, really satisfying. So I love the way it was done.
I agree. A really successful, just like quick society building story that like simple, fun, like didn't forget to be like badass and like Star Warsy cool with like fighting and aliens and stuff, while still being like pretty believable.
And it leaves out enough details that we're able to like get that little subversion later.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh.
Which is like, if you've read stories, it's like pretty expected that like, oh, the high class people are actually bad,
Yeah.
and the rebels are good.
I think I said just yesterday, because we briefly mentioned that we'd read the comic, that like it was telling that they were going to be bad when the Queen was immediately like a little bigoted towards the Twi'lek.
Yes.
Like, get the alien. The alien needs to be interrogated first. Ugh.
Yeah, they have like some quarantine process for aliens on there.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah, that was our first little clue that maybe they weren't as peaceful as we were led to believe.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the three boys go there, and it turns out that there's a princess, and there's a princess named Gallia, and she gets kidnapped, quote unquote, by these Beast Rider pirates, and
yeah. Did we mention that the people who get exiled like tamed the beasts, and that's
yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's cool. So they seemingly kidnap her, and the Jedi are sent out there to go get her back. When they get there, they realize, oh, she actually wants to, by her own free will, marry the son of the leader of the Beast Riders. And then we get this whole other side of the story about how actually the main civilization of Onderonian people, they're freaking trapped by the dark side generationally.
Corrupted by a fallen Jedi. With a little Romeo and Juliet story tacked onto this.
Yeah. But man, Freedon Naad is cool. And he is, a dark side user that found himself he became the apprentice to the master of the Sith, but he could never be as good as that master. So he decided, well, I'll be a king of my city instead.
I love that motivation too. It's like so simple, concise, but also it's perfect. Like just the idea of, I guess I didn't think about that there can only be one Sith Lord at a time, but like, yeah, that makes sense. So like, it was the only way he could have been Sith Lord was to kill that guy that he couldn't kill.
Yeah.
So he had to go find his own thing and take control of his own planet so he could fill that power void. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, because I totally agree. Like, I'm getting just excited talking about these. Like they
were good.
They are way better than the last ones we read.
Best comic we've read so far, probably.
Yes, yeah. I think so. Like. Before we I had read these before a few years ago, before we reread them, in my head I liked Dark Empire more, and I think it's just because of the art being a little more unique in that one, and there's a few like very visually striking, like big blockbuster moments that I kind of remember well. So it was just like lingering larger in my mind than these, but I like these a lot more upon rereading.
Yeah, I'm very excited to continue reading because I think I told you basically this first mini series is just like introductions to these characters.
Yeah.
I'm assuming we're gonna get to see like because the narration is like, these are some of the most famed Jedis. Like they go on to do incredible things
and hear their stories.
Yeah. So I'm like, I know there's gonna be this team up and it's probably going to be a spectacle of awesome, but I like thought that was all going to happen in the last issue because I didn't know there was more. I thought it was just all this, so I'm super excited to get to see the characters more.
There's a good bit more, and it's pretty cool from what I remember. There's like maybe 5 or 6 of these like 6-issue miniseries.
Whoa! Okay, wow.
And some of them jump around in time and have new characters, but these characters do retain a lot of the focus too.
Okay. Exciting.
It's cool at the so at the end of the 2 issues, it's kind of like a big battle going on between the Beast Riders and the Onderonian people. Like Ulick has asked the Beast Riders, like, "Hey, will you not declare war if I can like convince the Queen that this will be like a peacemaking opportunity between the 2 factions and like we can resolve this peacefully," which, just good to throw that detail in there for like, that's what Jedis are supposed to do.
Yeah. The Jedi way also funny because the guy's like, you can try that, but if it fails, you're going to fight for us, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, well, yeah.
Yeah. Like, we know you're the good guys. So, like, we will if it comes.
It's like, okay, you could try them.
And I like that they're, like, already mobilizing the army before they even go to talk to the Queen, because it's like, we as readers obviously know that's going to fail, but I'm sure, like, the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Jedi is optimistic that he can brokerage a peace, but all the people who've actually been living in the conflict for their whole lives are like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. There's a lot of like, I don't know, like pragmatic realism to this in a weird way, I guess. I maybe be getting a little ahead of myself, but I love the story point where their master basically has to come in and save the day, really. Like, they messed this up. They
started a huge war.
Yeah. And it's like, well, this is their first mission, and there was a little bit more going on than met the eye. So.
Yeah. And it's cool because it's all pretty brief, but they give you just enough of the beats that you need to still have that kind of thing actually hit in the book, because they even have a moment where they're like, "Oh no, he's going to be so mad at us because like we failed the mission." And then he comes and they're like, "We're so sorry." And he's like, "Hey, look, I mean, honestly, you probably did the best you could do. We didn't know that a Sith Lord was buried here and whatever."
Yeah.
So,
He is a little sassy with them at first, though.
yeah.
Because the two things I kind of remember him saying are, one, like to the dude who got his arm sliced off.
Yeah.
He's like, "Are we so willingly just casting off our flesh now?" And it's like,
Yeah,
geez,
yeah.
holy.
Bro, that K, his only trait is really like he likes machines.
Yeah. Which also, it could have fooled me with that being like his thing. Like, I know there was the little moment where he's like, "I can fix the droid's arm to make it the good prosthetic for me."
Mhm.
But I was like, I can't tell if this is like, do you have intellectual tech superiority, or like, do you just have general droid knowledge and this is like the baseline for Jedis in the Star Wars universe?
Yeah, because it seems like most people in Star Wars who are like slightly intelligent people know how to like fix at least a certain amount of machinery, which
Yeah.
you would need to in that world.
And like
where-
reroute circuits, like we've seen Luke use his. I mean, Luke's really intelligent, but
yeah, Luke's a builder of stuff, though.
I know. I guess he's never been like showcased as like having so much technical prowess, though.
Yeah, you're actually right. Yeah.
We have seen him like redirect his hand prosthetic to charge up doors and stuff. Like,
Yeah. I guess they're like, oh, he's a good pilot, so he probably knows how to do everything.
Yes.
Yeah. I kind of, just some nice classic like Star Wars stuff with the droid arm getting cut off in the training sequence at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And then later Kay gets his real arm cut off. And it's like, people have been getting their arms cut off in Star Wars since day one, and it ain't gonna stop.
It's a little interesting to me how much of a non-issue it is in the Star Wars universe too.
Yeah, I'll just put another one on.
Yeah, it's almost like he was almost excitable about it. He was like, "Check out my cool new arm."
yeah.
It's like, oh gosh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But also when Luke lost his hand, I mean, in that moment, it's like, oh my god, Luke lost his hand. Like, we see the pain and everything. Obviously, like, there's trauma with that. But then he gets the new one, and it's not really like, we don't get like any like phantom pain, or like they don't do anything with it. They don't make it a thing they want to discuss or really talk about that much in the story, which is fine.
No, they don't. And I feel like other Timothy Zahn kind of focuses on that a little bit more than the movies do. And I think even the No Gray have something of like, ooh, like that's how we know you're really like the son of Darth Vader, because you have like the robot hand.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe I can't even remember, but yeah, there is like just some kind of nebulous theme about like the body and the soul and naturalism and things like that.
Yeah.
Although like droids are our friends as well, so
I don't know. Maybe there's something there too. Disposable friends. It more seems like it.
Hey, C-3PO and R2-D2 aren't disposable in the eyes of Luke, at
True.
least.
Sure.
But yeah, so at the end of this, yeah, like you said, Master Arca comes, uses battle meditation, by the way.
So cool.
Calms down.
Which I guess also the queen, because she gives herself over. She's so angry about this war and her daughter and everything. She gives herself over entirely to like the corruptibility of the dark side, right?
Yeah.
And she's kind of battle meditating too, because we get to see like the beast forces like starting to get sick and stuff, like feeling faint. Very interesting.
Yeah. She uses the energies from the tomb of Freedon Naad, and kind of, they maybe use her as like a host for his like dark side forces or whatever it is. And yeah, that's just cool to see like those sort of ethereal powers battling each other without, having it be like a laser beam button mashing fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
for sure. It's also great, again, in the sense where it's like, okay, this feels like real to me. Where everything's like tracking logically when his name's Master, the Jedi Master's name is Master
Arca.
Arca, right?
Yeah, he has a last name too, but Arca is what I remember.
Well, when he like rolls in and basically it was like just dispels the dark energy, and annihilates her. Really, like,
yeah, it kills her because
it's kind of great.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean,
it's like he's a Jedi Master. You're tapping into like the dead dark force of a fallen Jedi.
Yeah, like maybe he would have caused a problem for the Jedi Master, but like you don't know what you're doing.
I also I forget the exact context of it. Oh, and maybe this is maybe this is actually, I won't get to this yet.
Okay, that's all right. I do like the very end though, after he like kills the mom of the princess. He's like, hey, this is just the beginning, you know. There's still many people loyal to Freedon Naad on Alderaan, and there's rumors that, you know, the princess's dad is still alive. And then Ulick is like, how could that happen to a Jedi? Like, didn't he have a master? And why would he? And then Master Arca's like, hey, the dark side is really tempting, and it can happen to anybody.
I know. He's literally like, pray it never happens to you. It's such a nice moment too. Yeah. Very cool.
So then anything else about those first two?
No, the thing I was going to mention is Nomi related, which is why I wanted to wait for us to, you know.
For sure. Well, then, yeah, we can get into those. The issues 3 through 5 follow Nomi Sunrider, and her daughter Vima, I think.
Oh, I think. What was her husband's name?
I don't know. Essentially, her husband is a Jedi who is off to go meet his new master, Master Thon, as well as deliver these crystals
for lightsabers, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
Lightsaber building crystals. And these bounty hunters that are these people who work for a hut, right? But isn't it Boga the Hutt?
Boga Hutt, I think. Yeah.
They kill her husband, Nomi Sunrider's husband. And so she, you know, has to pick up his lightsaber and defend herself and their daughter from these criminals. She then goes to Master Thon and learns under him. And yeah, we're just kind of setting her up as another character that by the end of these 3 issues, it's very much like, okay, she's going to this guy who's another apprentice of Thon goes off to join the boys over on Onderon. And doesn't this end with Thon and being like, I gotta go help Master Arca now too?
I don't remember Thon saying he was going to get involved at the end. It may, though.
I think you're actually right. Let me just look at how this ends.
I would love that, though. I'd love for Thon to get involved. I can't remember how it ends either.
That night, Master Thon says that the holocron prophesies that Nomi would become a great Jedi. He compliments her for using her Jedi powers well, blah, blah, blah. No, it's just that the whole time she's very resistant to becoming a Jedi, and by the end she's like, okay, I'll be a Jedi.
Oh, okay.
That's all it is.
Well, yeah, I absolutely love these issues.
Nice.
I think the story of it is like, I guess, somewhat simple, but it really, really pulled me in. Super captivating. I love her as a character. She has this moment later on when she's explaining sort of what she's felt internally about her husband dying and everything. Because, yeah, we meet her and she's like, in the beginning, her husband's like, don't worry, like one day I'm going to teach you to be a great Jedi too, just like our daughter. And she's like resistant to being a Jedi, like just happy with her status, I guess, like as she is, even though she is very force sensitive, is what we learn. And yeah, she talks about how she would watch her husband go off on these Jedi missions, and she'd feel the fear that he was going to die and he wouldn't come home. And then she would feel so safe when he was back finally. And this is all very heartwarming and touching. And then like the sad like bitter, ironic part that they call out is that like she was so afraid of her husband dying like out of sight, but she's there and she witnesses his
Yeah.
death. It's like when they're together, it's in front of his wife and daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool.
Yeah, it is cool because that's like, oh, she always felt so safe when he was around, but that's actually when the most danger happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's I agree. That was a great like little interior flashback for her, even though, that's like a somewhat like tropey thing, I guess, but it was written and drawn well enough to make it feel personable and specific to these people that it was believable and effective. I agree.
Yeah. Oh man, it's very interesting to me the way that her husband dies too, because it's those two bounty hunters who are, I guess, have some history with, because we're at a different time. They know about Jedis. Like there's a lot more information about Jedis, and these guys, I guess, have picked up some trick or have heard some story or something about like the distraction element with Jedis, where if you can distract their attention, you can like really sideswipe them, basically, which is like how this guy ends up dying.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but you're right.
Yeah, just really cool.
That is cool. What was I going to say? I think it's cool how people, treat Jedi in general in this one, because then later, there's this guy. There's this guy with like a trunk. I forget his name. He.
Wait, in what we read?
Yeah.
What am I thinking? Who's a trunk?
Boga the Hutt. He's an employee of him, and he.
Oh yes, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
There's a whole subplot with like Spice and or I guess, and these other people who have like giant wasp spaceships that mine ore, and then these pirates come and try to take the ore, but then Boga the Hutt has been hired as protection for these miners, and then the Hutt people capture the pirates, and then yada yada yada. Anyway, Boga the Hutt sends this guy to go get his crystals back.
Yeah, the crystals. Gosh, man, those are trouble.
Yeah, as well as kill Master Thon, I'm pretty sure is what he tells him to do.
Yeah, I was trying to remember why, though. Why did he say to kill Master Thon? He just has personal beef with him? Was there like a personal vendetta? Oh, I think so. I think he alluded to it, but we don't know it yet.
He's gotten into my business.
I think something to that degree.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also loved the pirate's reaction, though, where he was like, I'm not going to go kill a Jedi Master. What?
Yeah,
I can't do that.
That's why I brought it up. Yeah, just the way that people feel about Jedi. He's
yes.
I'm a fucking, like, he's like Greedo, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, he's at that power level. Like, it'd be like Greedo fighting Yoda. Like, not gonna happen.
And, like, the brief display of power, which I think we'd already seen from Master Thrawn, or Thon, right?
Yes.
Gosh, that's gonna mix me up. Thon.
Yeah, it's close to Thrawn.
At this point, was like him doing some force projection ability. It's like, yeah, this guy's going to get absolutely annihilated. We should say, for those who don't know, I guess Thon is also like this armored giant reptilian lizard.
Yeah, he's like alien. A mini pterodactyl looking thing, or not pterodactyl, triceratops looking thing.
Yeah. So he like, naturally you would think that aliens race could just annihilate whatever this pirate's aliens race is anyway, because the size difference.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I wasn't saying it because I thought this was this guy's captain, but no, this is actually Finhead Stonebone, if you remember. He looks like an elephant, but not like Max Rebo.
Finhead Stonebone?
Yes. His true name, origin, and species remain a mystery. So we don't know what kind of alien he is. Yeah, Master Thon, really cool, because it kind of does a little bit of like what we have, that little subversion when Luke meets Yoda. where Nomi Sunrider like lands on this planet where Thon and I don't remember the name of his apprentice, but that yellow guy with
Yeah.
spaghetti hair.
Looks like a scarecrow to me. Like,
Yeah,
it's
the
strange.
top of his head is really weird. Yeah, like a scarecrow. It's like strands of hay kind of. Anyway, she assumes that he's the Jedi Master because he's riding Thon,
Mhm.
and it's like, and he has a lightsaber.
Yeah, which by the way, kind of a reverse Yoda Luke, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Luke's like, this guy's not Yoda, Master Yoda.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, she's like, "Oh, you must be," and he's like, "Hey, that's the master, the animal looking guy.
Yeah.
You thought he wasn't intelligent? He is." Um, yeah, so Nomi Sunrider is like super resistant to learn how to like use a lightsaber and stuff because she used a lightsaber to kill the people that killed her husband, and she's like, "Oh, I killed those people in vengeance." And Thawne is like, "No, you really didn't. Like they were gonna kill you and your daughter, so like you did what you had to do." And
Yeah.
she's like, "Yeah, well, maybe, but I don't want to kill anyone anymore. I don't want to use a lightsaber. I don't want to be a Jedi. I just want to protect my daughter and blah blah blah."
It is a really interesting, kind of murky thing too with the character, like with that lightsaber thing. Maybe it's supposed to be more black and white, but as I read it, I was like, man, it does kind of seem like I know her husband just died, and she is like they are defending themselves, or she's defending her daughter. Um, but there is like a brutality to like slicing the dude in
Yeah.
half.
And she's definitely angry when she's doing it.
It's very dark side adjacent, you know, like giving into it in that way. I guess it seemed like less defense, more revenge, and it felt good.
Yes. Yeah. Which I think is probably why she feels that way, because she's saying that it was in vengeance. Like she would know how she felt when it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I think is cool about Thawne and like so silly, but Jedi teachings in general is that after the fact, the only thing that matters is how that affects you psychologically for the rest of your life. The
Yeah.
act is already done. So if he can reframe it in her mind to a place where she is not feeling like it was an act of vengeance anymore, like, okay, yes, maybe in the moment I lost control, but that moment is over now. And I realize after the fact, like, yes, maybe I was angry, maybe that was vengeance, but I did also have to do it.
Mm.
So now maybe I can learn from that and you know be at peace with my actions, things like that. I don't know.
Man, you know, I get so. This is a really interesting part of the Star Wars universe that my brain doesn't necessarily know like how to dig into, and it's that idea of like the Jedi's being this guiding hand to people, and it like feels so like predeterminist of them in a way that I don't like.
Yeah.
Like I think I've mentioned before, like I don't like how they'll also. It seems like they'll be utilitarian to a fault, where like they will just be like, "Yeah, Luke, your friends may die, but like we got other stuff to do," and it's like, well, that still matters to him, and that's still important in his world, in his life. And here,
they're being really cold about it as well.
Yeah, and Thawne, she's like, I really am resistant to this idea of lightsaber. Like, I will give myself over to the Force. I will be a Jedi, but I'm not going to be a Jedi who wields like a lightsaber. Which
He's
is
like, no, you will.
Yeah. and he like really is like, okay, that's fine. And I'm like, okay, I guess they're gonna hold on this for a little bit. But then like in their first session, which takes place like 10 minutes later, he's like, now pick up the lightsaber.
Yeah,
and like again later on, he'd be like, pick up the lightsaber. When they're being attacked, he's like, you need to pick up the lightsaber. I'm not gonna fight. You're gonna have to defend both of us.
Yeah,
because you're a Jedi and Jedis use lightsabers. So
yeah, you're right. You're right.
Like, I get it to a degree, but like,
I think maybe that is some intentional moral gray area, or at least hinting at the themes of the Jedi can be very like obtuse in sticking to their rules and things.
Yeah.
Or and they withhold information and they manipulate, and for the most part, at least so far, the people that we have encountered that are not, you know, part of the dark side. All the good Jedi that we've encountered so far, their intentions and their motivations and their heart are all in the right place. And however, like they do seem to have some pretty like unempathetic means to ends.
Really, yeah, and you know, not to dig too deep into it, I'm sure there's not. I don't know how it all plays out. I'm sure there's not really anything that this thread leads to, but like him being on that planet again, kind of similar to Yoda,
Yeah,
because there's like a dark force thing there that he wanted to study.
hmm
He was saying the planet was so imbued with the dark force, I guess, but he eventually drove it all back into that lake and whatnot.
yeah,
Um, I don't know, just like I guess being adjacent to the dark force like that, and like the interest in the dark force like that. I see like the purpose of how, because even in those first few issues, they talk about that one point where it's like they immerse themselves in the dark force, in a sense to like they have to, but it's like to so they know they can get out of it, basically.
yeah, to like learn about it so they can like recognize warning signs or
Yeah,
I guess identify it in their brain better.
but I don't. Something like strikes me as dubious with Thawne and everything going on there.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a cool extrapolation of things that are hinted at with Yoda because, yeah, like we're never really told it outright, but we can infer from the movies that Yoda has isolated himself on Dagobah because that cave has some type of powerful dark side energy there that he wants to study slash maintain slash uh, coexist with and balance out by his presence or something.
yeah,
And that is kind of what's going on here, but we get it sort of written out and explained a little bit further. And I really like that the concept of like the whole planet was like racked with the dark side and he was able to like contain it to this one little place
yeah.
where it has manifested itself into these like mutated beasts, like unnatural monsters that come out of the lake.
See, this is the other thing too, where I was like, okay, if I feel like, you know, if I really wanted to, I could start connecting points and being like, make a little Thawne conspiracy here. Because there's also the moment when Nomi and her daughter are like, I guess they're by that lake and like, oh, because her daughter like runs over to it, and one of those mutated creatures comes out, and she uses her very cool ability, which we haven't mentioned yet.
Yeah.
I guess, which is
It's also like referred to as battle meditation.
oh, is it the just battle meditation? Is what they called it?
Yeah, but hers, at least in this, is working differently than how we see Master Arc.
Yeah, it just showcased it as like in her thoughts, she like had the two creatures. She visualized the fight, and then that fight happened,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was cool. So yeah, that's how she saves her daughter in that instance. But later, when they're going out to eat and start their training, Thawne is like, "Oh, we can like sit down and eat right here," and it's the exact same spot where by the lake
Yeah.
that they were attacked. And she's like, "Let's not do there. But we were just attacked there." And he's like, "Okay," and I was like, "That's weird that was written in there."
Yeah,
Like,
because he did he want something to come out there and to force her into using the force to save them or
exactly.
whatever?
I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not really a great dude.
Yeah,
Like, he's
I think you're absolutely right. Like, and I'm not even being like ooh about it. I genuinely don't remember
yeah.
what happens with Thawne. Thawne and Nomi and all that. I don't think I've read all of these miniseries. I've definitely read a few more of them. I really don't remember what happens. So, yeah.
Well, I hope
Any
it all pays off.
theories that we can talk about, we can freely talk about without me being like, oh, maybe.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, no, I hope it pays off too. Oh yeah, I like how Vima had a toy Ewok. The daughter was like holding a little Ewok stuffed animal.
Oh, I
at
didn't
one
even
part,
notice
too.
it was an Ewok. That's funny. Endor gift shop.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I think Boga's just mad at Thawne because he's holding the crystals. He still has those crystals that Boga wants.
I guess. Is it just that like Boga came over, tried to steal them Thon kind of wrecked his shit, and now Boga's mad and still wants the crystals?
I believe so.
Okay.
Maybe there's more to it that we'll learn later, but
Yeah.
as far as we get here,
I guess that's fine. Still funny to tell some random pirate to go kill a Jedi.
yeah, I know. What did you think he would be able to?
Yeah.
Like, I understand because the guy goes like, "No, I don't want to," and then he's like, "All right, well, I guess I'll just let my beast eat you," and then he's like, "Okay, I'll do it," but it's like, yeah, does Boga think that he will be able to do that? Like,
Yeah, it's like, bro, he doesn't stand a chance. He's not even going to be able to get your crystals back. Like,
yeah,
come on.
Like, Nomi killed 5 of your guys before. Yeah. Now you've got an actual master and her.
Yeah, and theoretically, I know the one Jedi dude in training left, but it would have been that pirate going like up against 3 Jedis.
Yes. Yeah.
And, the daughter she's young, but they said she's extremely force sensitive.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily see in some like high pressure situation, she unlocks some like latent power. I mean, that happens all the time and stuff like this, where like a child who doesn't know how to control their stuff yet, it's a high stress thing, and the pressure causes them to like release a massive power or whatever.
Yeah, man, what's really fun? I remember us talking about in the first couple movies, something I really latched onto that I loved about Star Wars was the idea of the Force, and I feel like it's being explored in a lot of the stuff we've been taking a look at in such fun ways. It's really scratching the itch in my head, and I love the little details that they intertwine, like the daughter using her Force ability to like dull the teeth of the reptile she's playing with so that they don't hurt.
Yeah, that's awesome. I fully agree with you, and I think like, that's what's great about something like the Force being in other media besides movies, because in a comic book, like, of course you don't want to just be able to do literally whatever you want with the Force. I still feel like it fits into what we know about what the Force can do and how, Obi-Wan and Yoda explain it in the movies. It's not diverting too much from that, but it's also showing concepts that would be really hard to demonstrate in a movie.
I also really, I could see it going overboard, but to some degree, I really like characters having specializations within the Force.
Yes, I love that.
I kind of want it to get cemented eventually, where it's like, yeah, here's the tools of the Force. Now it's about utilization, and that's how the characters can do some of the more creative things that they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Rather than just like, here's something that you never knew that they could do that can fix this problem.
I don't want like infinite inventiveness of like now, because then it's just power. It's like, this is my power. This is like my character's power. Like if you really want to do that, just make a Force sensitive alien, and that alien race like has a power.
Yeah. Or like some other kind of magic that's not the Force.
Don't force it.
Yeah,
Don't force it.
Hey, nice.
Yeah.
I agree with you that the Force like should have a set amount of things it can do, but it's still got to maintain that fluidity where none of the abilities feel like 100% separate. Like I guess what I'm trying to say is like Superman, right, can fly, can have laser eyes, can have ice breath. Those things all have like nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
They're all cool. Sure, but they don't really like blend. The Force, like, you have like telekinetic things, you can use telepathic things. That's pretty much what it is. There.
Kind of like intangible energy.
Yeah. So it is going to be like nebulous, but I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is I agree with you. Like, it should have only these sort of set amount of things that it can do, but those things should all feel like you could take your hand and smear across all of them to just be the Force. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess like the perfect or like a more apt way to describe what I would want is something like locking it in would be like if the Force is chess, and like you can learn a bunch of different openings, but once you start playing the game itself, it's going to be radically different every single time.
Yeah.
But you're still using the same knowledge base.
Yeah.
To like maneuver and do creative things with it,
I like that. Yeah. I think that's a really good way to put it. Because like chess, the rules have stayed the same since the beginning, but people are constantly finding new ways to play it and new strategies and things like that. Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it, I think. And I would agree. That's how I'd like to see it, I guess, with a little asterisk that if somebody had like an amazing idea for a new power that was just like so cool and made perfect sense, go for it.
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, for the most part, I agree with you.
They could. I also wouldn't mind if like it's what I said, then sort of like what you just said. I'm like thinking about the Avatar, the Last Airbender universe, where it's like, yeah, everyone's like, these are all waterbenders, but like that guy can actually bloodbend on certain like days and stuff. So like he's got a really special thing. Like that's cool enough as an outlier, and it still feels connected enough that I'm like good with it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's kind of like the lightning that Palpatine has.
Yes.
Because we don't see any kind of lightning until the third movie. We've never... All we've seen so far is the Force being like telekinesis, moving things, choking people.
Yeah, that's the first visual aspect of the Force.
Yes, yeah. But it works because it's like, oh yeah, well, like the most evil guy in the whole world, like that's probably what he would use the Force to do.
Yeah.
Like, it's still very like primal, elemental, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I guess I'm saying like I agree with you. There's ways to make it work where it doesn't feel like it comes out of nowhere, you know.
Is there Force examples later that are like really, really, really bad? Like, is there any one that people are like, how is this a Force ability? Like this?
Yes. Absolutely.
Interesting.
But
do you think they would upset me if I saw them?
I guess we'll see. Yeah. I think the more frustrating thing is the utilization of, I mean, I won't get into it too much, but I feel like, you know, if you're going to establish something as something that the Jedi can do, there's got to be a good reason why they're not doing it.
Sure.
In a later circumstance.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't include it in the first place.
Interesting. Okay.
That's all I'll say for now. But
a vague little riddle.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we'll keep that nugget for later.
Just feels very easy to me to like make mistakes with the Force if you're a little like as a writer. I mean, you know.
Well, for this series though, there was very close collaboration with Lucasfilm and George Lucas himself, where they had to send them, the editor and Tom Veitch, the writer, had to like be constantly sending these big detailed questionnaires to Lucasfilm, and George Lucas himself had to have final pass over these questionnaires of like, are we allowed to do this, this, and this?
Wow.
Does this fit in with your ideas of what you want to do later, or your ideas of how the Force works, what Jedi are, all this? And he, you know, I mean, who knows how much thought or time he actually put into looking over those lists, but he approved everything that is at least here on the final page that we're reading. So it more or less fit into what he thought of, at least at that time, of what the Force and the Jedi could be.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool that they, I mean, it's important for something like Star Wars to feel connected and feel like, yeah, it should still be at the end of the day, like George Lucas, it's his idea. So if there's something in there that he would be like, no, that would never happen, like, let him say that.
Yeah.
I think, personally.
Yeah.
Not like he never has bad ideas or does anything wrong.
Yeah.
I just appreciate that there was that much thought put into it.
Yeah.
So, like we've mentioned, Nomi Sunrider makes those two animals fight each other to save her daughter. Then that is also what she does at the very end of these issues, where the pirates, the Hutt employees, have come back to kill Thon and steal the crystals, and they are already at odds with each other because half of them want to just steal the crystals and get out of there, while the other half are like, no, we have to kill Thon because that's what we were sent to do. And the other guys are like, you're fucking crazy. That's a Jedi. Like, let's just get out of here with the crystals.
Yeah.
And
Good thinking.
yes, they're obviously the smarter ones.
Yeah.
But it describes it as like all Nomi has to do is just a little tap of influence to like send them over the edge. They are already angry at each other.
Yeah.
Just nudge it a tiny bit further to have them like actually start fighting each other. And I think that's a really cool way to put it. And they get into it in the Thrawn books as well, of like, oh, what is crossing the line? This is more in the second book when Luke is actually with Sabayoth.
Mhm.
Spoilers.
That's okay. Yeah. I'm past the point of probably picking it up again.
That's okay. Sabayoth uses mind manipulation to really like make people do what he wants, and to the point of in the third book he fully possesses an Imperial officer and then kills him once he's done, like just completely. And it gets, I'm just going to spoil it for you.
No, it's fine.
This
awesome.
is in the third book. One of the officers, it is from his perspective, the chapter. He's like, oh,
That's cool.
he, got really scared at the idea of Sabayoth leaving, because what would he do? He didn't know what all he wanted was to, just be comfortable, and he wasn't stressed out when he was doing what Sabayoth was telling him to do and stuff like that. So he's just like fully taken over this guy's brain, and then when he leaves that possession, it's too much, and the guy just dies.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, that is awesome.
So then Luke, in the second book, Sabayoth does that in front of Luke to a lesser degree, and Luke is like, that seemed really wrong to me. But Obi-Wan did that to stormtroopers. I did that to Bib Fortuna in Jabba's palace when I needed to save my friends. So like, what's the line there? Like, when is that the dark side? Like,
that does feel like a very scary thing to be messing around with,
mm-hmm.
like ripping away autonomy.
Yeah,
like,
and they leave that unanswered. There's no hard line. It's, but I think they do a good job in this of making it be like, well, yeah, that is the right thing to do in this situation. They're trying to kill you, and they are, quote unquote, bad guys, and they will kill all of you and steal your stuff if you don't do anything about it. So you got to do something. But that is a scary power.
For real.
The ability to mass manipulate people's minds. I mean, it's just an interesting concept.
Yeah, honestly, maybe one of the most powerful like force abilities we've seen thus far. But also, I think this series does a good job actually of like exemplifying what I'm talking about like using a power in different creative ways. Like, because when the battle meditation is used in the, what's the A planet up on?
Oh, Onderon?
Onderon, yeah.
O planet.
Oh, sorry, Onderon.
It's okay.
When it's used on Onderon, it's like we see it as like this sickness, at least when the dark side is using it on the guys.
Yeah,
like we see it as a sickness within them. And then when Nomi uses it, it's almost like an empathic thing is happening, where it's like the guys start arguing with each other first. Like there's a logical dispute that they start having. It's not like a sickness they're feeling. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of like just a different finesse of it, I guess. I find that interesting.
When Arca uses it, it's like a calming thing. Yeah. Where he sort of, just does a little bit of like mind sharpening and relaxation to the beast pirate guys to help them. Yeah. Like, so it can be used in lots of different ways, but I agree with you. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, people sort of maybe have their own little specializations. Like, maybe Nomi's is that she's particularly good at just like identifying conflict that's already there within people and then nudging it to a point of coming to blows or
Yeah,
whatever.
I love that. That'd be, that's
That's-
like a great explanation of it.
Really interesting. Yeah, these are really cool. These are really cool.
Yeah, I'm super excited to keep reading these. Are we like jumping into more of these next?
Yes, they are. Yeah, the next thing the next series of this comes out alongside the sequel to Dark Empire. So I think we'll read both of those.
Cool. Okay.
And yeah, if you want to, I think they're both interesting.
I got to see how it ends.
I agree. I'm more excited to read the next Tales of the Jedi thing than I am to read the sequel to Dark Empire, but I'm curious. Let's see what happens.
And now, knowing that, like, he maybe, not that he wants these things to be, like, connected, I guess, since they're so spread apart, but, like, in his idea of what Star Wars is. Like, I want to see that. I like what he's done.
Well, I fully agree with you. And it's not that connected, but I just remembered while we were talking, I know I mentioned he was starting to write, like, little things about these characters in the back of Dark Empire. That was supposed to be in universe, that holocron that Leia gets in Dark Empire. That's supposed to be the info that she gets from this holocron is these stories. So,
interesting. Okay.
Obviously that's not a big connection, but that's the little tie between the two things.
That makes sense.
Yeah, really good stuff.
Oh, I also just want to mention, I loved, I think it was when Master Thon was going through history with Nomi. I just thought it was so fascinating the way that they talked about sort of the rise of Jedis and the idea, like, this is maybe a point for Master Thon in being a good guy, but it seemed like he felt a lot of shame when he brought up the fact that, like, yes, unfortunately, like, a few of those terrible people who've, like, damaged planets and whatnot with the Force have been Jedi.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that is cool. Yeah, so I guess he is willing to admit that, like, they've made mistakes at the very least. Yeah, that little backstory was cool. I forgot about that.
Lots of really nice Jedi details, Force details, like, truly exactly what I would have wanted from this book. So great job.
Slight, this isn't spoilers. This is just one of these miniseries in the future. One of these concepts that we'll get to will be even further in the past. The sort of discovery of Force utilization to begin with. Yeah. Like, that will be the focus of one of these miniseries, which is, from my memory, really interesting. It's been like 5 years since I read that, but I think it's cool.
Okay, cool. I'm excited to jump into them.
Also, just quick shout out to Nomi Sunrider's outfit in issues 4 and 5. It's nice.
Sam?
Yeah, I like it. The little bunched up parachute pants. Yeah. She's got a real, like, Princess Jasmine type outfit going on, little midriff.
Yeah, cool design.
She's awesome.
Big Nomi fan, this guy.
I like her. She's really cool.
I like her a lot too, yeah.
Look, guys, I don't just think she's hot. Okay?
I didn't. No one said that.
I do think she's hot. I'm not denying that.
Now you've said that.
I know. I'll admit it. But, I also...
She's single.
Hey, true. 4,000 years ago.
Yeah, 12.
4,000 years before a long time ago.
True. But how old was Yoda? He was like he was over 8,000, right?
No, 800. He's 900. He's 900.
Yeah, I guess that's ridiculously old. 8,000.
Yeah, look, I respect her too. She's a powerful, independent, very cool, strong lady. She just happens to have a nice outfit. I like the color. I like the little rolled up bunches going on. Yeah. I'm just saying. Nice.
She has a daughter. Would you be okay with that, I guess?
Hey, I understand. I mean,
I just mean, do you feel like mature enough at this point in your life where you could also take responsibility for raising a child?
No.
With your partner?
Not at all. I hope that maybe, like, she and Master Thon can take care of that.
Oh, don't make Master Thon a glorified babysitter.
Well, he said he's going to train her, He said he'd train Vima once she gets a little older.
I actually did like that moment, too, a lot when he's like, okay, yeah, we're starting your training now. He's like, and your daughter, too. she starts now too.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
nice.
I think there's a moment when she's like denying the lightsaber where he's like, oh, well, I mean, I guess maybe your daughter will be a cool Jedi then, if you're not.
Oh, man.
Little
Yeah, he does say
manipulative.
that. He's a guy. He's quite the guy.
I wish we saw him. I know this isn't the point of him, and I'm being a big hypocrite by saying this, but I wish we saw him fight more.
Yeah, sure.
Just because he looks tough.
I want to see him with a lightsaber.
Yeah, how does he hold? Well, he has fingers, really. He does hold stuff, and he has hands and fingers.
I guess we see him just on all fours, like roaming around often. So.
Yeah, but then there's that one shot where he's holding the holocron, and he has like these long, spiny fingers.
True. Yeah, I guess he can. Hey, that's gotta look sick.
Doesn't he give her his old lightsaber?
Yeah, you were right.
So he used one at some point.
That's all. God, he's so manipulative in that scene too.
Yeah.
Because he's like, well, my greatest apprentice ever should have my lightsaber then.
Yeah,
and it's like, I'm sure in her head she's thinking about the apprentice who was just there. Like the apprentice that this guy has had. This is his personal lightsaber.
It was supposed to be her husband too, who was going there to be his apprentice.
Oh my God, you're right. Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. She was just coming along.
Yeah.
It's short but it's cool that there's that much to dig into.
Yeah,
with
he's a little bit of a sociopath.
Yeah. I guess when I say the characterization is light, more so in those first two issues.
Yeah, I agree.
The second three are a lot slower paced and more focused on just her and Thon and her interior and their relationship. That's a lot of the focus there. So.
It's a fun read that I'm very excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, me too. I guess the part that like seems really errant is like the Boga the Hutt stuff. They focus on him quite a bit for how little to do with anything he actually has.
That's where I started getting bored in my reading and was like, oh, can we get back to the interesting stuff?
And it's just like already in both of the Tom Veitch things we've read, there's been a completely like just another Hutt that is doing exactly the same stuff that Jabba does. And it's like, oh yeah, we go to his palace. Oh, very familiar looking. Look, we got a lot of like criminals and a lot of like sexy dancing girls, and then he's got a monster that he feeds people to that piss him off. Like, okay, I mean, how many times are we going to see that? And the spoiler is about 900 million more times will we see that.
More Hutts?
Yeah.
Wonderful. To me, it's also just like...
I'm just saying, in comic books. I'm exagerating, but there's just a million Hutts in comic books that are the same as Jabba the Hutt.
Sure,
but anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, to me, it's just like, even if we're going to see a bunch of Hutts, to me, that's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. But let's like have them feel a little different. And this guy, from what I can tell, his deal is that, because he said this in like 3 different ways. And to me, it's like, it's not a characterization. So I don't know why they're trying to make this the thing, but he's like, I'm really nice to my people if they obey me. That's kind of my thing. If you listen to me and obey me, don't you see everyone's having a good time? I'm nice.
Yeah, you're right. They hit that beat like, oh, I actually pay my people. Like, I keep my word on stuff if you do it too. And it's like, well, I'm pretty sure Jabba also did that.
That's like how all of these like positions of power and hierarchy kind of work.
Yeah, like we kill the people that betray us and we pay the people that don't.
Yeah, and it's not like, I mean, I feel like an example of maybe what the sentiment was supposed to be was like kind of Talon Card adjacent, where like he's very polite and nice with everyone.
Unless you fuck him over and then he'll mess you up. But
but he'll still even do that, I guess, like in a diplomatic way, in a sense. But like here, we see someone get eaten. Like, right there.
We see him behave exactly like Jabba the Hutt, even though you're right. I kind of forgot about that, but that is, they're trying to characterize him as like, I'm a little more reasonable and I'm not as just like, off with his head as Jabba the Hutt is, but like, yes, you are. You are.
Yeah, just has that pirate eaten, so the other guy goes to kill the Jedi Master.
Yeah. And there's that moment where he's like, no, my friend.
You were the best second in command or whatever.
Finhead Stonebone, man.
Yeah, bummer.
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking of if there was something to critique, it would be the Hutt side plot.
Agreed, but it really doesn't bring it down that much.
No,
you know?
no, it's really good. I really, really like these a lot.
I give this 4.5 out of 5 lightsabers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. 4 ignited and 1 unignited lightsaber.
Yeah, one's it's like the half saber.
Oh, okay.
4.5.
So, yeah. I know that if we're going based on their length, that wouldn't be quite half, but I was thinking non-ignited one just counts as half.
Sure.
All right?
Hey, I hear you.
Maybe on like a weight distribution way. Like the hilt is shorter, but it probably weighs as much as the long ignited blade.
Yeah. Has there ever been a Star Wars scene where someone holds the lightsaber upside down by accident and hits someone with the hilt?
Like they hold on to the blade?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, hey.
I don't think you could. Wouldn't it just your fingers go right through it?
Look, man, I don't know. I don't know the durability of certain alien races in the Star Wars universe. We've certainly seen scenes in movies where someone... I can think of a scene when the Brienne of Tarth stabs the Hound and he pulls the blade out of his stomach.
Yes.
By holding on to it.
I've seen people grab blades many times in scary movies and medieval. Yes.
In Terrifier 3, actually, didn't this also happen?
Yep.
Okay.
And the movie I just watched 2 days ago, Parents, that also happens. Someone grabs the blade to stop it from going into them. But a lightsaber, there's no grabbing that. It would just cut right through you. Except for the Truset Bakura book, the Sea Rook, they're like these reptilian people. They're kind of have lightsaber resistant.
Yeah, I guess the big pivotal dumbness of my thought is that it is light, so you cannot hold on to it.
Yeah, but
it
seems to have some kind of resistance when it cuts through thicker things. So
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, true. I mean, and it also bounces off other lightsabers.
Yep.
So you know what? I stand by what I said.
You're right. Someone could have an armor or something on their hands that could grab a lightsaber. Or some alien species.
I could see Thon doing this.
Yeah. You're right.